2018 marks the 80th anniversary of Southern Illinois University's Department of Communications Studies. The Marion Kleinau Theater, located on the second floor of the Communications Building, has been hosting performances by the department since the theater's founding in 1966 by Dr. Marion Kleinau. Back then, it was called the Caliper Stage, but it was renamed to honor Dr. Kleinau in 1996. When Kleinau founded the stage, she created a space for oral interpretation and group performance of non-dramatic literature. Today, the 110-seat theater continues that tradition and provides a state-of-the-art laboratory space for students and faculty to fully explore and practice performance as a method of scholarship. Both the Kleinau Theater and the department's program in performance studies create opportunities to refine skills and develop critical understandings of the role of performance in shaping society and culture. Each year, the theater hosts an active season which includes both solo and group performances in the areas of creative literary adaptations, original scripts, performance art, and ethnographic studies, among others. The Kleinau Theater is one of the most active and prestigious performance spaces in the country, drawing a diverse group of guest artists and scholars to its stage. In the fall of 2017, Department Chair and Professor of Performance Nathan Stucky sat down with Professor Emerita Dr. Marion Kleinau for a spirited discussion about how the space was created, its diverse production history, and the evolution of the discipline.
When you came, you told me once that you had a background in dance and in theater.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this literature and performance kind of stuff? How did that happen?
Well, I really can't tell you for sure. I did graduate with a PhD and with a minor in dance and a major in theater from University of Wisconsin. I think there was a person in interp at Wisconsin. So I had, and also at LSU when I took my master's, there were classes in interp. I didn't take very many, but I took 2 or 3. I never had a class that taught me how to create a script from non-dramatic literature. But I got tired of doing the same old plays over and over and over again. And now I realize you can do them differently. But once I tell you, I began to read some of Bob Breen's stuff. And he was at the University of
Was he already at Northwestern already at that time?
Yeah, Northwestern, yeah. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I went to one of their productions. And when I saw the possibilities that Bob found in prose, now he didn't work with poetry, but he worked with prose. He called it chamber theater. And I thought, wow, all of those books that I loved so much because my mother used to read to me and I grew up on literature. And so that's where I turned my attention. And so about that time they had built the building. The problem is they finished what is now the office of the speech department. But behind that was just a big unfinished space. And the architects said, well, now you eventually will be across the stairway in a space right inside, the first door that you go. And so we went in there and looked at the space, and we measured it, and we said, well, we need to get used to working in this kind of space. Can we have the back of the office space? And so they weren't going to do anything with it. They didn't have money to finish it. So we moved in there, and fortunately I had Brad Rim, who was working on a master's, I think, at that time. And Brad was a genius with electronics. And I had Paul Rowland, who wanted to do a show. Another one. The first one was his, A Party at Madeline's Place. And he was working on his PhD. And and we had a number of the students were wonderful in those days. They just spend hours working on this. And they made a theater in that space. Mm-hmm. Now, what we did was we measured off the space. Here you had the back wall of the building, which was no windows or anything, and then you had the front row part of the building that had the windows looking out over the campus. We took the back part of the building and marked out the size of the space there, and we built risers. And so we had an area where you had an entrance at this corner and an entrance at that corner, a group of risers with chairs. And then on this side, I think that was the first one. We had just those, that was it. For a couple years, we just had the one set of risers. And the audience came in on either side of them, and the show was here. And they then built me a sound and light booth, which sat right in the middle behind these risers. And we couldn't afford very much, so I found a deal on some what was that? Burlap. I found orange burlap, and I bought rolls of it, and we made just curtains that went behind the risers, around the light booth on two sides, and around the risers on the other side. And so that was we didn't realize that we were a fire hazard, but we were. And our lights, we didn't have any lights, except what they did do is they put up house lights for us, so that people wouldn't fall down the risers. And so we took vegetable and fruit cans, these gallon cans, and painted them black and put floodlights in them. And I think we had a few spotlights and floodlights. And that's what we used for the first year up here. Then the second year, I think they took pity on us. Oh, we borrowed a few lights from the theater department, I think, that first year. But then I think the powers that be in the university gave us a little money. And we bought more lights. And I had and Brad built me a control board from scratch. And we worked with that for 2 or 3 years. And fortunately, later on, Brad came back for his PhD, and he built me another one that was much more sophisticated. But by that time, we had regular lights, and we had built then onto the theater a set of risers on both sides. So we had an oblong space with risers here and risers here, and this was our playing area. So it was a three-sided, and that's what the caliper name was. In other words, it was like a caliper is a measuring instrument that comes around and on 3 sides, and that's what we called it. The audience was on 3 sides.
I've told people, and correct me if this is wrong now because I've got the source here, that somehow you managed to get somebody to put that door in the hallway and get access to it and just kind of basically claimed this space. Was that right?
Well, they did. They built before we went in there. They had a door there.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah, it was closed off, so people wouldn't go back there. Okay. And so the door was there, and we just kept building. And then the rest of the story is we had a backstage area that was to the side, and I went in there one day, and all of a sudden there were two before things that marked off space with wire, just like a wire fence around them, that I had either 2 or 3 of those. And we put costumes in one. One of them was we put cover over it, and it was a kind of a half-assed dressing room. And then the other one was something else, I don't know. And then also there was a lumber rack over there. And I said, where did all of this come from? I didn't have any money to buy lumber. and nobody ever told me. But I do suspect that there were a few construction sites on the campus who were short a little bit of lumber.
I want to ask a couple of little questions about what you've done with retirement, how you felt about that. You had a fabulous career. And,
well, retirement first was easy because I was tired. But then I really began to miss students. Mm-hmm. I really did. I didn't miss the meetings. I didn't miss a lot of other things, you know, or giving grades. I always hated to give grades. But the students, the interaction there, I really miss that. I still do.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've come back to a couple of different things when we've had different programs. You've come here.
Yes, and I'm going to try to get to most of them this year.
So, when you've spent time in the theater, and you've not just the theater here, but other theater venues, whether it's down in the McLeod or the Mo or up here or wherever, and you've seen students over the years. What is it that you said you missed dealing with the student? What is it about working with students that you really miss?
Because I have learned so much since I retired. Mm-hmm. And I want to share it. It's just, if I had that, if I could teach them this,
So thinking about the transition from the Caliper to the Kleinau Theater, how do you feel about this name of this theater being named after you? Is that okay, or how do you feel about that?
Well, first, a little embarrassing. But it's kind of nice, and my husband likes it. Mm-hmm. He took the Marion off of it and made it the Kleinau Theater.
Well, we still officially call it the Marion Kleinau Theater. We've actually had somebody drive to Marion going, I couldn't find that theater. And we're saying, no.
It really happened?
It really did happen, yes.
Oh, my. Well, but it's nice. It's nice. It makes me feel like I have a home here.